Hey, it's Chase from On the Table Gaming. Having reached 9 factions, CMON's A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game, has grown at an incredibly rapid pace since its Kickstarter launch. And while there's been some speculation that this is it for factions, with the majority of houses adequately represented, there's overwhelming evidence in favor of a new faction coming to A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game. Now, detractors have pointed out that with the recent launch of the Martells, we've hit all the faction symbols on the box art of the original Stark vs. Lannister set. But we know that this can't be the case, and that specifically some other faction is set to be coming out. In fact, on our podcast, the On the Table Gaming podcast, game designer Michael Shinall was very deliberate in his undermining the thought that there may be only 9 factions.
The question came up, when we were talking about Song of Ice and Fire, and it was that we had at least 9 factions planned for the game. And the problem is that people really seem to like forgetting that little preface there about at least, and taking that to mean, oh, there's a hardcore limit of 9 factions, which, that whole quote was made at the very beginning to show that, no, it is not going to be just Starks and Lannisters, as we revealed that we actually have plans for the future of this game and everything. And of course, the internet being what it is, latched on to 9 factions. That's a hardcore number, hardcore set thing, that's all we're going to have. So every time that we have mummerings coming out, they're always like, what are the 9 going to be? Because it can't be any more than that, because things never change. So, that's a thing. That's probably one of the quotes. There's 2 quotes I remember from the early days, and that's definitely one of them that sticks with me, is why did people latch onto that?
Furthermore, on episode 107, when we spoke with Jim Ludwig from Darksword Miniatures, he made an offhand comment about 2 factions being released in 2022.
8 factions now, with another 1 or 2 factions, coming out in 2022.
While one is House Martell that's come out, this leaves a final mystery faction coming. And it looks like this mystery faction won't make it for a 2022 release, but it could be right around the corner. Now, looking back to the starter set box art for clues isn't as helpful as we might hope, as 9 of the 11 symbols are accounted for, and the flower, bear, and fish representing House Tyrell, House Mormont, and House Tully are all represented as sub-factions within the game already. Now, while we could be seeing these become their own fully fledged forces, it's unlikely as they're so heavily tied to their main factions already. Now, this leads many to believe that we could be seeing the introduction of something new, maybe something like the Brotherhood without banners. The real question then becomes, is there enough lore to make the Brotherhood into a full faction with multiple hero boxes and unit types? Characters like Arya Stark and Gendry could make an appearance alongside Beric Dondarrion and Theros of Myr. But for unit types, CMON might need to get a little more creative. It wouldn't be the first time that CMON had to come up with units for George R. Martin to approve. Doing a search through the books, things like the Martell Sand Skirmishers are never mentioned specifically by name in the lore, and Michael Shinall has even spoken about the Umber Berserkers being created as a concept for the game approved by George R. Martin as something that would likely fit within his lore. Now, if the Brotherhood without banners was the next faction, what even might be the base mechanics for them? We've seen faith and pillage mechanics already. Would the Brotherhood perhaps blend or borrow those rules? Or might it have something entirely new? Let us know what you think might be the defining traits for the faction in the comments below. There are a lot of ways in which they could take things, but we're hoping that we'll be getting Beric with a flaming sword on the table soon. CMON seems to have some big ambitions going forward for A Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game, in 2023, so stay tuned, and we hope you get your miniatures on the table.